It was the only house on Greymore Lane that remained unsold for decades. A towering, decaying Victorian mansion, its windows were always dark, the front door forever closed. Locals said that whoever lived there never stayed for long, though no one ever saw anyone leave. When Sarah and her family moved to town, they were the latest to take up residence. "We got it at a bargain," Sarah's husband Mark said as they stood in the empty front hall. "People are too superstitious around here." But Sarah felt it. Something was wrong with the house. At night, the walls groaned as if in pain, and the floorboards creaked when no one was walking. Shadows seemed to move in her peripheral vision, but every time she turned, nothing was there. One evening, as she sat alone in the living room, she heard a soft knocking. It was coming from the basement. Mark had dismissed her earlier concerns, saying it was probably the old pipes or the wind, but this sound was different. It was slow, rhythmic, almost purposeful. Sarah grabbed a flashlight and opened the door to the basement. Dust and cold air rushed past her as she descended the creaky wooden stairs. The knocking continued, soft, deliberate. She followed it deeper into the dark, her flashlight casting long shadows on the stone walls. At the far end of the basement, Sarah found an old wooden door she had never noticed before. It was slightly ajar, and behind it she could hear faint breathing. Her heart pounded in her chest as she slowly pushed the door open. Inside was a small room, completely empty except for an old rocking chair in the corner, slowly moving back and forth as if someone had just been sitting in it. The knocking had stopped, but the feeling of being watched was stronger than ever. Suddenly her flashlight flickered and died. In the pitch blackness, Sarah heard a whisper right next to her ear. "Leave." Terrified, Sarah rushed up the stairs, slamming the basement door behind her. She told Mark what happened, but he just laughed it off. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Sarah woke to the sound of breathing again, but this time it was coming from inside their bedroom. The air grew cold, and she could feel a presence standing over her. Mark was still sound asleep beside her, but she couldn't move, couldn't scream. In the dark, she saw it, a figure standing at the foot of the bed, tall and shadowy with glowing eyes, watching her. It didn't move, it only watched. Frozen in fear, Sarah shut her eyes, praying it was just a nightmare. When she finally gathered the courage to look again, the figure was gone. But the next morning, scratches appeared on the bedroom walls, long and deep, as if made by claws. Over the next few weeks, the haunting escalated. Doors would slam shut on their own, objects moved from place to place, and Sarah would often wake up in different parts of the house with no memory of how she got there. Mark remained oblivious, thinking it was all in her head. But one night, while they were having dinner, they heard it. The knocking from the basement. Mark, now convinced something was wrong, grabbed a flashlight and went to investigate. Sarah waited at the top of the stairs, her heart pounding. Moments later, she heard Mark scream. She rushed down to find him standing in front of the small hidden room, his face pale with fear. In the center of the room was the rocking chair, still moving back and forth, and carved into the walls were hundreds of eyes, all staring at them. That night, they decided to leave. They packed their bags in a rush, but as they tried to open the front door, it wouldn't budge. The windows wouldn't open either. They were trapped. The house groaned around them, the walls shaking as the temperature dropped. The knocking returned, louder this time, coming from all around them. The shadows seemed to grow and twist, forming into figures with glowing eyes. In the chaos, Sarah realized something terrifying. The house wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was alive and it was hungry. The knocking grew louder and louder until it was deafening. The floor beneath them began to crack and split open. Sarah and Mark tried to run, but the shadows were faster. They grabbed at them, pulling them towards the basement, towards the small room with the rocking chair. As Sarah was dragged down, she looked up and saw the figure standing at the top of the stairs, watching, waiting. Then everything went dark. A year later, a new family moved into the house on Greymore Lane. They were excited to start fresh in their new home, unaware of the horrors that had occurred before. But the neighbours watched from a distance, knowing it wouldn't be long before they too heard the knocking in the dark. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.